floors, and lavish chandeliers. The perfect venues to host your wedding, corporate event, or much more. For availability and more information, call us at 402-603-6483.
Get it, slip it, cuff it, check it. Talk to doctor now and share it.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it twice a day.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it in the morning and before dinner.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it, and share it with my doctor. Nearly 1 in 2 U.S. adults have high blood pressure. That's why it's important to self-monitor your blood pressure in 4 easy-to-remember steps. It starts with a monitor.
Now that I know my blood pressure numbers, I talked with my doctor. We're getting those numbers down.
Get it, slip it, cuff it, check it. Talk to doctor now and share it.
Be next to talk to your doctor about your blood pressure numbers. Get down with your blood pressure. Self-monitoring is power. Learn more at manageyourbp.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the American Heart Association, and the American Medical Association, in partnership with the Office of Minority Health and Health Resources and Services Administration.
Don't you wish your life came with a warning app?
Stop. That dog does not want to be petted.
A heads up before something bad happens.
You should not send that text.
Uh-oh. Life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes, you can reverse prediabetes and prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. To learn your risk, take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
Turning my pain into purpose is pretty much what I have done to start this foundation.
In August 2020, after the death of George Floyd, Bridget Floyd and other family members established the George Floyd Memorial Foundation in support of the Black community.
It's going to take more than just us as a foundation. It's going to take the community, the world, to make a change.
Fight for racial justice for the Black community. Learn how at lovehasnolabels.com. Brought to you by Love Has No Labels and the Ad Council.
Finally, a good reason to have a smart house. Just say, Alexa, play 93.7 The Ticket, and we'll magically start playing. How's it work? Nobody knows. Don't ask questions.
Papa, why can't we telegraph while riding a horse?
Son, there ain't no one to blame but Jeffro. He was riding old Betsy the Stallion, tip-tapping away at his telegraph, when blam, ran right into the side of the saloon.
Well, if Jeffro can't do it, neither should you. Don't text and drive.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Adoption of teens from foster care is a topic not enough people know about, and we're here to change that. I'm April Dinwiddie, host of the new podcast, Navigating Adoption, presented by Adopt US Kids. Each episode brings you compelling real-life adoption stories told by the families that live them with commentary from experts. Visit adoptuskids.org/podcast or subscribe to Navigating Adoption, presented by Adopt US Kids. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Administration for Children and Families and the Ad Council.
This is your captain. We are going to be experiencing some slight turbulence. Please fasten your... Oh, hold on. Just got a video of my cat.
Imagine the pilot of an airplane was as confident as you are texting and driving. Seems kind of crazy when you put it like that.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Here's to days spent roaming, and to sleeping beneath the stars, to casting another line and letting time float by. From Chadron State Park to Indian Cave State Park and every recreation area, historical and state park in between. Here's to your adventures, your memories. Here's to going out and enjoying your Nebraska State Parks. Plan your next trip today at yournebraskaparks.org. Sponsored by Nebraska Game and Parks. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
If you can plan barbecues and weddings, you can plan to protect yourself from a natural disaster. Sign up for local alerts, prepare an emergency kit, and make a family communications plan. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
If you came across someone struggling with hunger, how would you recognize them?
By their clothes,
their age,
the way they speak, Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America, 200 Food Banks Strong, and the Ad Council.
We stand on the shoulders of women who came before us.
Women who fought for their own financial futures.
And now it's our turn.
Join us. Visit WeSaySaveIt.org and take control of your financial future by saving for retirement.
A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
Courage. I learned it from my adoptive mom. Hold my hand.
You hold my hand. Learn about adopting a teen from foster care at adoptuskids.org. You can't imagine the reward. Brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
Husker Nation, now is the time.
Holy moly! Man, woman, and child did that. Put them in the aisle.
Diving touchdown, Nebraska. Does he have enough? Is it long enough? It's going to be tipped. It's caught.
How many tackles can one man break? He's to the 20. He's to the 10. He's on the way.
Totally unbelievable. It's game day in Lincoln, America. And this is the A1 Automotive Ticket Tailgate pregame show.
Check this out.
The A1 Automotive Ticket Tailgate pregame show is powered by Mullen Motors, Wall to Wall Wine and Spirits, Bauer Underground, Ben Bleicher with PRG and BHHS Ambassador Real Estate, and Ritchie Brothers.
Come on.
Get up and get loud, Husker fans. The A1 Automotive Ticket Tailgate pregame show starts now.
All right, welcome into the Ticket Tailgate on 93.7 The Ticket. Today is game day as Nebraska will face off the Indiana Hoosiers at 6 o'clock right here in Lincoln. There's a lot of storylines going into this game, trying to figure out what this Nebraska team is and if this Indiana team is really the record that's behind them. If we look at Indiana's record as it sits right now, they sit at 3-1. But it hasn't been an easy 3-1 to say the least. They started off the season facing off Illinois, which at this point is looking like their best win by far. If you guys have been watching college football today, you have already seen Illinois handle Wisconsin pretty easily by the helps of a guy named Chase Brown, who's just been a force all season. But Indiana would start that week one being able to take down Illinois 23-20. And then after that, it was pretty bumpy. They would head to play Idaho, would get out of that one alive as well, 35-22, and then they would face off against Western Kentucky in a really close one there. They barely pull that one off, 33-30, before their first loss of the season coming from a very good school in Cincinnati. They lost that one 45-24. So you can see right there, they haven't been dominating those weaker FCS schools, but they're still 3-1. You have to give Indiana credit for knowing how to close out games, something Nebraska hasn't been able to do throughout the entire Scott Frost tenure. So the hope is with Mickey Joseph, is there a way that Nebraska can play this opponent who, in my opinion, is probably close to being the bottom of the Big Ten despite the record? I don't think they're better than Illinois. I think they got away with one in that week one season. I think if Illinois would have played them 9 out of 10 times, they'd probably win 8 out of those 10 against Indiana. That week one game, you just never know how it's going to shake out. So I'd probably, that's going to look like their best win. But really up until then, they haven't been battle tested too much other than Cincinnati, which they lost. But they're closing games out, like I said. And then you switched over to Nebraska. I mean, the Northwestern game was probably as good as it looked for us so far all season, which is something to say. We'd lose that game 31-28, and then we wouldn't pick up our only win so far in the season until North Dakota won that one 38-17. Obviously, it was a bumpy road. If you remember, at halftime, it was scored. That was the game where you first kind of hear the showering of boos from the Husker Nation. But with that being said, there is a little more optimism. Despite losing to Georgia Southern 45-42 and then Oklahoma in a brutal loss 49-14, we now have a new guy at interim head coach, that maybe he can't fix everything. But if we can just see some small improvements, this team has plenty of talent to beat a team like Indiana. Indiana's defense is pretty much right there with us in terms of ranking all D1 defenses. We're about 128, and I believe they're not that much higher at around 125, 124, 125 throughout college football. So we're both pretty much bottom feeders towards the end. And if you're trying to predict this game, I'd take the over if you're better. I think it's going to be high scoring. You just heard me read the scores that Nebraska's played. We haven't really been able to stop anyone that's came into Lincoln so far. It's going to be a pretty fast thing to turn around for Mickey Joseph. Obviously, got rid of Shenander, so new defensive coordinator in Bill Bush, moving over from special teams into that defensive coordinator position. I do trust him in the sense that he's been around football long enough to where I'm not worried about him not knowing the ins and outs of the defense that's currently on the field for Nebraska. He probably had to learn some, but like I said, he's been around the game for so long that the lingo that goes on the defense isn't going to fly above his head by any means. So we have that going for Nebraska, as well as, like I said, Mickey Joseph stepping in there as well. We're going to have to see what that defense looks like, if they can actually find a way to stop Indiana. Because like I said, Indiana's sitting at 3-1, and it's going to take some probably not major fixes, but the small things such as the tackling, just filling gaps, getting in the right spaces for this defense. I don't think Bill Bush had enough time, even over a bye week, to change the entire philosophy of the Nebraska defense. That stuff gets done in the summer. It's a little too late for that. You can tweak it and do, try to fix the small things, which according to Mickey Joseph, that was pretty much the highlight of this bye week, was getting back into individual work kind of over and above the team stuff. Because it doesn't really matter if you're working on team stuff, if you're doing indie drills with the offense or defense, if you don't know how to do the fundamental stuff yourself. It's just going to fall apart. And that's one thing about this defense. When you don't have a group out there that's really clicking, that's really being able to take charge of that defense, and you got just a bunch of kind of adequate spots all over that defense, it can look really bad in a hurry. I mean, this Nebraska defense has continuously gotten gashed over and over and over, and they're going to have a tough one today. I mean, you don't want to put it against Indiana to say they can't come in here and beat this team. We've seen it at this point. Nebraska hasn't really shown much fight when teams come into Lincoln. So Indiana, so far, their leading running back is Sean Shivers, which is a great name for a running back. That's perfect. He's at 320 yards, so we'll probably see a good dose of him. They haven't been incredibly elite running the ball by any means. Like I say, he's only at 320 yards, their lead running back. But we've seen what happens to this Nebraska defense. If we don't have guys like Garrett Nelson, O'Shawn Mathis, even Colton Feast, it's going to be a long day. You hope to see a little bit more of Caleb Tanner as well, kind of get in the mix. But for the most part, it's going to be a pretty tough road for this Nebraska team to really put it all together in one piece. And as I'm talking right now, Alexis is also joining me, and we'll also be joined by Karter Longy as well. Those guys will be joining me for this pregame show. We'll go all the way up until 4 o'clock before we start throwing it to other guys on the 93.7 Ticket team. But as Alexis walks in, Alexis, how's it going?
Good. How are you, Harrison?
Not too bad. Just filling in right now. Where I'm kind of leaving off is trying to figure out what this Nebraska team is going to have to do over this bye week. What are the points of emphasis that they could possibly fix to turn this team around in such a short window?
I think tackling was definitely one of our struggles during the Oklahoma game. And I think that's something that they really do need to focus on. Mickey Joseph has even said that to the media. And that's just something that I really, honestly, it was just a little disappointing kind of seeing that. Our defense definitely needs some work as well. We're not super strong yet, but I think we can get there.
Yeah, as far as trying to predict this game, I'll save that for the end, but I'm having a hard time with it because I don't know what Nebraska's identity is. It says it's weird to say that in week 4, but I still have no idea what this Nebraska team is trying to be. I kind of get the offense. It's more of a pass pro style. You're going to let Casey Thompson sit in the pocket more. It's not like Adrian where we're spreading it out and we're having him run a bunch of bootlegs out of the pocket. But the defense, well, like you said, I don't know what you can possibly fix other than the tackling. the individual drills. I mean, I guess, do you think that stuff can get done over 2-week period?
I think that will take some time. We'll definitely see some improvement, but not the full effect of what we're hoping for. It takes time to build a team, and I've heard that from a lot of different coaches. I mean, it can take anywhere from, you know, 3 to 5 years in order to develop a team, develop a good team and a good coaching style. And unfortunately for Nebraska, we've had a lot of loss and we've had a lot of big changes lately. So that's something that we're going to have to keep in mind as we progress through the season. But those little things that they can work on, that's up to the coaches on what they think that they should work on, but also taking the effects of what they've noticed in other games, going over film, all of everything. I mean, Nebraska isn't as strong as we used to be, but there's
Yeah, that's an
definitely
understatement.
I'm trying to keep it nice here. But for sure our offense was not looking too like, honestly, those first, like, 2 to 5 minutes in the first quarter during the Oklahoma game, that was the best version of Nebraska football I have seen in the last 2 years. Like, during that Oklahoma game.
I'd say Northwestern. I'd put that one up top just because, but that was a perfect storm.
Yeah.
I mean, that one's in another category on its own. But yeah, that opening drive, I'll agree with you there. That was an impressive drive that was clicking. The problem was when Oklahoma adjusted, it just seemed like we never did. They kept sending blitz packages. You know, you kind of knew that's what Oklahoma was going to do. They were doing it all season. It's not like they only dialed it up for us because our pass protection has been in shaky moments, but you knew they were going to bring guys from the corner, for the safeties, the linebackers. They're going to run twist with the D linemen. You're going to have to find a way to pick those guys out. And they did a great job disguising it, but we saw Casey Thompson take an absolute beating for this Nebraska team in that loss. It wasn't until Purdy got in there that we saw a little more light for Nebraska as they get another score. 14-49 was the final score. But yeah, I'm really having a tough time trying to figure out what this offense is going to do. We're going to see Anthony Grant obviously get bulk carries. We got to remember AJ Allen's out. We will not be seeing him, as well as a new change in the offensive line. We'll have Ethan Piper stepping in there. So a couple changes there as well. So keep an eye on for that. I mean, do you see Anthony Grant kind of having another game where he's going over 100 yards against this Indiana defense?
I think given the right opportunity, he definitely can. We've seen a lot of work from Anthony Grant over the season so far. Man has literally carried Nebraska football for the past, 3 games now? And I don't know. Indiana's pretty tough. He definitely can do it, but it's going to be a bit of a challenge for him during this matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see here. I think we do got some text as well. Let's see. Gavin Robbins says Nebraska Cornhuskers football team is 38-31 Indiana Hoosiers. So we got a couple people. Bruce Davis says 37-35 Huskers. Like I said, I'm going to save my pick for the end here, but I think most people are kind of falling in the middle here. I think this is probably a big toss-up. If you had to pick the 2 worst football teams in the Big Ten right now, who would you pick?
Oh, dear Lord. You're asking me questions I wasn't prepared for, but I think we know the obvious one.
Nebraska, probably being the obvious.
Second.
I'll spoil mine right now. I think it's Indiana. I think this is why this game's important. I think this is going to be the real bottom feeders of the Big Ten kind of game. And if you can't find a way to knock off Indiana, I don't know where the momentum's going to come from.
I mean, I would just be happy with a win or a close one.
Yeah,
I would be
I don't
happy.
care how it looks. We need a win at this point. Mike, you're saying the momentum would be huge. If we can't, I mean, the schedule just gets tough. We'll go into Rutgers after this week, and that's a Friday game, I believe. And then we're back to, I believe, another bye. And then from there, the road just gets tougher. And then we have to face Illinois, Minnesota. We still got Iowa, Wisconsin, Michigan, all in the mix. But if you look at the Big Ten West, the number 1 team is 1-0 in the Big Ten West. The bottom teams are still 0-1. So there's, we're only 1 game behind from the Big Ten West. So it's not like there's nothing to play for. So I don't expect this Nebraska team to quite give up. I mean, if you're going to ask me statistically, if I see there's a real chance for Nebraska to win the Big Ten West, probably not, but it's not out of the picture. Let's see. From our texter here, He says Belima is perfect, knows the Big Ten. Not sure he would take, and we'll just leave that one out. He's saying, did you catch that Illinois game today? By chance, they're playing Wisconsin.
I got to listen to part of it on my drive down here.
Yeah. So basically, sum it up real quick. Illinois pretty much dominated that team. Wisconsin was struggling. Their offense, you were never really scared of Mertz at the quarterback position, but they really could never get it going. Illinois was able to essentially just run it all over them with Chase Brown, who's secretly probably, I would say, one of the best, or if not the best running back in the Big Ten right now. Chase Brown for Illinois, he's going to be a real problem when he comes down the road when he plays Nebraska, because obviously haven't been able to stop the run. One of the worst teams, in fact, in the Big Ten in terms of stopping the run. It's going to be a tough one to find a way to stop that, but we got to start here with stopping Sean Shivers. With that being said, we will throw it to break here. This segment will keep going. We got this all the way up until 4 o'clock. But if we start throwing it to the other guys from the ticket team, I'm Harrison Arns here with Alexis. We will be joined by Karter Longy too eventually as he's on his way down to the station. But we will be right back after this.
Another packed fall sports season means it's time to get to N Street Drive-In to fill up on all your beverage needs. Right now, they have tons of fall seasonals and Oktoberfest beers, and you can check out their First Street Brewing and Lucky Bucket selections as their beers of the month. Also, make sure to download the new N Street Drive-In app to order online and to set up delivery right to your front door. And don't forget their top-notch crowler fill system. N Street Drive-In, your one-stop beverage stop at 1801 O Street.
93.7 The Ticket is proud to provide listeners with daily opportunities to win contests and prizes on our airwaves, and would like to take this opportunity to remind you of a couple rules. All participants must be 21 or older and wait 30 days after winning a prize before participating in another contest. Once you win, you have 30 days to pick up your prize at the KNTK Studios, 330 North 48th Street in Lincoln, or your prize will be forfeited. Thank you for participating in our contest, and thank you for listening to 93.7 The Ticket.
Money. But like many of you, I spent years paying bills, managing checking accounts, and taking care of my family. So turns out women are pretty good with money after all. And now I'm taking control of my financial future by saving for retirement. It's never too late to start, and there's a great website to help you. Check out WeSaySaveIt.org and jumpstart your retirement savings on your budget and your timeline. That's WeSaySaveIt.org. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
This message is for Karina, our mom who finished her high school diploma at age 28. Hi, Mom. It's Emmettith and Nicholas. Congratulations on getting your diploma. You worked so hard and have taught us so much. We love you.
When you graduate, they graduate. Finish your high school diploma for you and for them. Visit finishyourdiploma.org to find free and supportive adult education centers near you. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
What I know about courage, I learned from my adoptive mom. She said sometimes you just gotta hold on and know we'll get through this. Mom, we are so high up. Hold my hand.
No, you hold my hand.
Here we go.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to find out more. This message is brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
This is your captain. We are going to be experiencing some slight turbulence. Please fasten your... Oh, hold on. Just got a video of my cat.
Imagine the pilot of an airplane was as confident as you are texting and driving. Seems kind of crazy when you put it like that.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
When it comes to making plans, you are the best. What about those round trips, which are perfect on your way there and perfect on your way back? Or those meetings with friends, surprise parties, camps, birthdays. The same way you plan for the important moments, start planning to protect you and your loved ones from a natural disaster. Sign up for local weather and emergency alerts. Prepare an emergency kit and make a family communications plan. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
I learned patience from my adoptive dad. All he had to say was,
"Hey, you got this. Just breathe." Hey, we're pretty good.
Yeah.
Might have to start a band.
I got it.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to find out more. This message is brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
Another packed fall sports season means it's time to get to N Street Drive-In to fill up on all your beverage needs. Right now, they have tons of fall seasonals and Oktoberfest beers, and you can check out their First Street Brewing and Lucky Bucket selections as their beers of the month. Also, make sure to download the new N Street Drive-In app to order online and to set up delivery right to your front door. And don't forget their top-notch crowler fill system. N Street Drive-In, your one-stop beverage stop at 1801 O Street.
93.7 The Ticket is proud to provide listeners with daily opportunities to win contests and prizes on our airwaves, and would like to take this opportunity to remind you of a couple rules. All participants must be 21 or older and wait 30 days after winning a prize before participating in another contest. Once you win, you have 30 days to pick up your prize at the KNTK Studios, 330 North 48th Street in Lincoln, or your prize will be forfeited. Thank you for participating in our contest, and thank you for listening to 93.7 The Ticket.
Back to The Ticket weeknights on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
All right, welcome back into the pregame show, the Husker football pregame show, as we're getting ready to face Indiana at 6 o'clock. I am now here with Karter and Alexis as these guys hop in. As we're kind of leaving off, Karter, we're trying to figure out what this Nebraska team might look like if you're trying to figure out if this bye week is really enough time to fix this defense, because that's obviously the biggest problem that's been said over and over again. You can trust the offense to probably get over 30 points, considering Indiana's defense has been probably average to below average. If you're looking at them overall, they rank towards the bottom, kind of right where we are. The only difference is they're a lot better at the bend don't break than we are. They can have a few goal line stands, as to where we, for the most part, all season have been pretty much just giving up once they get in the red zone. I don't want to say giving up, it's not the right word, but haven't been giving much resistance. I'll put it that way. So Karter, I'll throw it to you. What do you think it's going to take for this defense to get a stop enough for us to catch up on offense?
Yeah, I mean, the bye week is obviously, it helps, right? I mean, you got a new coach and he kind of got just thrown into it without any time to really prepare. And obviously Mickey Joseph's been on the staff all season long. So obviously he had the report with the players and, been around and know how things have been running. But a bye week is really important when you have a head coaching change to kind of get things back on track a little bit. But at the same time, I mean, the problems with this Nebraska football team aren't really, I don't think you could really even say it's schematic or anything like that. It's frankly, they're just not playing good, and they just haven't looked like a good football team all season long. I hate to be the Debbie Downer, but I just don't really think that you can just turn a complete total football season around this late in the season, especially a defense who has refused to tackle and seems to have no basic understanding of fundamentals at this point in the season. Obviously they do. I'm not going to sit here and harp on the players the entire time, but from what we've seen so far, it's not going to be an easy fix to just completely flip things and start playing good defense. I mean, they obviously you got to work towards it and get better as the season goes on, but just one bye week, I don't think we're not going to see a completely different defense out there. It's still going to be the same team.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I don't know what you can possibly fix. Like you're saying, you're not going to see a philosophy change. And especially now that you have Bill Busch stepping in as defensive coordinator, I don't think that he's incapable of philosophy change. But as I was saying in the first segment, just now is not the time. That stuff gets implemented in the summer, in the middle of the fall. If you try to do that now, over the course of a bye week, that defense is just going to take another step back. That's just too much at the same time. At least in my opinion, I do think you're just going to see small incremental changes, like small things such as like blitz packages. I know that people have been harping on that all summer, or all fall, I should say, but you can change those up a little bit, find better ways to disguise it, small tweaks like that. But as far as the overall defense, yeah, I don't expect too much to change other than what Mickey's been saying, hopefully fundamentals. I think it's just got to come down to fundamentals. Karter, you were saying it, tackling's been bad. Coverage has been bad. Guys, even when they are in the right spot, they have a hard time turning back, locating the ball, making a play on it. We saw that a lot against Oklahoma. Guys could be in that right position, just couldn't make a play on the ball because they weren't aware where it was at. So it's going to be a lot of that. And then looking at Nebraska, we were kind of talking about what's going to be the key to success on offense. I think that's a pretty obvious one for me. It's going to be a lot of Anthony Grant, as AJ Allen is obviously out this game. We'll also see Ethan Piper in starting as well on the offensive line. So a couple changes on that offense, but I think it's ultimately going to fall down to this running game, and just don't give the ball to Indiana. I mean, with the way the defense is played, I know it's not the most exciting offense to watch, but at this point, if you want wins, I'm just a firm believer in just slowly putting salt in the wound. Get up and just kind of what I was saying against Oklahoma. Didn't think we could ever win a shootout against a team like that, even as promising as that first drive looked. Because as soon as a shootout, Oklahoma full steam ahead just completely took over.
No, yeah, I think that was going into the season. I mean, we all obviously had very high hopes, thought there was a good chance going into Oklahoma, Nebraska to have a 3-0 record and maybe have a chance, depending on how they played the first game, to maybe push Oklahoma. I mean, Nebraska, it was kind of a joke that they got a vote in the preseason poll, but at the same time, that kind of did prove that people did. It wasn't just Nebraska fans. Other people did see that there was a lot of turnover on this team, and there's a lot of talent here. And frankly, that it just hasn't really panned out at all. I mean, obviously, Scott Frost has now been fired. A lot of the transfers that came in, they've had good games here or there, but I mean, if we're being completely honest, Casey Thompson hasn't been, stellar lately. I mean, he's played good for the most part this season, but we saw that Northwestern game, he played really good, and we thought there was a good chance that he was going to be a top tier quarterback. And not saying that he still isn't or has the talent to be, but he just frankly hasn't looked as good as I think a lot of people expected him to. I know I saw somebody posted on Twitter, it wasn't like a complete fact or anything, it was like an opinion, but it was like a list of the transfers that have struggled the most this season in their new environments, and Casey Thompson was on the list. And I don't really think that's all Casey Thompson's fault. Let's just be honest, Nebraska's a way worse situation than he had at Texas. He had a better line. The weapons here, you could argue, are just as good or better than they were at Texas, but I don't know, just Nebraska in general, just the program is just not really doing it right now. And I don't really know where you can kind of go right now. It's hard to say. There's still a lot up in the air. I mean, today will be a good showing of where they're at after the bye week. Indiana's a team that they're 3-1, but they're probably one of the worst 3-1 teams in all of college football. I don't think they're a great team at all. I mean, they beat Idaho and Western Kentucky. They squeaked by Western Kentucky. They beat Illinois week 1. Illinois has looked good lately, but that was again a 3-point win, and then they got beat by 20 by Cincinnati last week. So I'm curious to see what happens today. I hope that Nebraska plays well, but I got to see it to believe it. I'm tired of the always talking about what Nebraska has to do and how is Nebraska going to win, and convincing ourselves how Nebraska is going to win. It's just kind of exhausting.
Yeah. I mean, Alexis, you got anything to add to that?
Well, I mean, during the Oklahoma game, I think it definitely helped switching out quarterbacks there for the split second that we did. I think Chubba Purdy came in and did his job, and he looked really good. Do you guys think we're going to see any more of Chubba on the field this season?
I mean, if Casey Thompson's consistently gets hit kind of the way he was against Oklahoma, then yeah, there's a real good chance that we see. I mean, he's good, but it's going to be Casey Thompson's pretty much role. The only time I see him out there would be maybe like a wildcat, but then even then I'd probably see, Smothers out there instead for that option. That's pretty much been his role at that wildcat, not even the wildcat, just switching it up, throwing him in there at the quarterback position. Because you take that, you can take a running back out of there and you can disguise the run so much more. You have a guy like Logan Smothers out there, you can thin it out. Now they kind of pretty much got to take another guy out of the box and you can disguise the run all that much better. So I don't know if we see Purdy unless it's a blowout. I think he's young enough to the point to where he's probably the next guy up, but they don't really need to force that on him this season unless it's, just completely broken at the end and we're just going to put him in there and Casey Thompson's banged up. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with this team. I'm really worried about, pass protection. I know Indiana's defense isn't great, but they have shown at times they can get some pressure on the quarterback. And that's something that Nebraska hasn't been able to pick up well. Their pass, coverage, pass pro isn't horrible by any means. But when teams like to change it up and send a bunch of different blitz packages, we have struggled a lot to pick those up. And without AJ Allen back there, who is honestly really good at pass pro, that's another concern of mine of who we see in there. But there is a chance, we see Ramir Johnson today. So that is something to look for. I think, we'll probably see him, probably Gabe Ervin a lot. I'd imagine he'll probably get a lot of snaps. but Johnson will be right up there as well. And then one more thing here. We got 10 more minutes before we go to this break. We'll get some of these texts coming in here. Let's see here. Gavin and Robinson ask, let's see, what do you think we should do against the Indiana Hoosiers in order to win? And as we're kind of talking about, it's just going to be the small things. You're just going to have to find ways to salt the wound. That's where I'm at for the season. The way the defense has played. I mean, do you guys think there's any chance that Nebraska's defense can at least climb into the average rankings?
I don't know if they get to the season average rankings. I think they can have games where they play well. Like today, I think they do have a chance to have a good game today. I mean, this Indiana offense, I wouldn't say is anything special by any means. Their quarterback, Connor Bazelak, hasn't really had a good season at all. He's completing less than 55% of his passes, 7 touchdowns to 4 picks. So, an opportunity to maybe get some takeaways there. And that's in the game that they have played well. I think that's been kind of their big thing too, is some takeaways at key times.
Mm-hmm.
Georgia Southern, obviously they gave up 45 points, didn't play well, but they had some big turnovers in that game that nearly gave Nebraska a chance to win near the end. They had a couple of picks and, made some big plays. And that, when you have a bad defense, that's the only way you can really make up for it, is forcing turnovers. You got to find a way to make up for it, because like I said earlier, you're frankly just not going to fix the fundamental issues with this defense right now. They're not going to all of a sudden start just swarming the ball on every single play and start making tackles beyond the line of scrimmage, on every single second down. That's just not going to happen. They're not going to start just randomly having the best gap integrity we've seen of all time. Those things just won't happen. So you got to have things happen in other ways. One thing that I think could definitely still maybe make a turnaround that maybe some people kind of forgot about is the pass rush. I mean, it's been decent at times, but I think that was the one thing that we all thought was going to be really solid this year, and that would really kind of help out the defense, because they were worried about the back end of the defense a little bit in the rush defense. But I think one thing that we were all pretty sure of is that coming into the season that we'd have a good pass rush. I mean, we have some dudes on the outside.
Yeah.
Garrett Nelson, Caleb Tanner, O'Shawn Mathis. Those guys, they should be able to bring pressure. And if they can start bringing pressure on the quarterback, that makes everything easier. It makes it easier to defend the run. It makes it easier for the corners in coverage. Getting pressure on the quarterback really can make a lot of things go away.
Yeah, and as we've seen throughout the course of the season so far, I mean, every quarterback we've played has come out with a pretty clean jersey. Unless you're Dylan Gabriel and you're running up the field, that's probably the only way it gets dirty. We haven't been able to see it, and I'm right there with you. If I had to pick one thing I was wrong about this Nebraska team, I was sorely mistaken about the pass rush. I thought for sure that we were going to get as much pressure as we've seen under the Scott Frost era. I was really high on O'Shawn Mathis. I know that, you see that season where I can't remember what the number of sacks was. You remember, you got that off the top of your head, Karter, that TCU season?
No, I don't.
Anyway, it was up there. He was basically up there for probably one of the best, edge rushers out there in college football. And that's kind of what we're recruiting. But the season after that, he only had 4. And I think we're kind of seeing that version of O'Shawn Mathis so far. And a lot of that, too, is if the other guys aren't able to get pressure, I mean, it just makes it that much harder. At no point does any offense we've played had to double any of our guys on the defensive line. Just hasn't been a problem for them. So it's very simple for them to just pick and point their guys. They don't have to worry about overhelping. We don't have a monster out there that can stress that defense. And then, kind of going back into what version of O'Shawn Mathis, I don't want to say that Casey Thompson has been playing bad, but if you watched him at Texas, his season was kind of like this last year as well. Very up and down. You'd have games where he looked really sharp. Obviously, the shootout, the Red River shootout with Oklahoma, that game, high scoring game. You got to see Casey Thompson play probably the best game of his college career. But in that same season, he was kind of wavering up and down again. And so far with this Nebraska team, kind of felt like that against Oklahoma. You have a real-time opponent, a big time to prove yourself, and you're going downhill in terms of momentum. Are you guys kind of seeing the same thing with Casey Thompson, or do you think he's the guy and we have nothing to worry about?
Yeah, so really quick on O'Shawn, he had 9 sacks in 2020.
Okay, yeah.
But anyways, back to Casey Thompson though, he's been good for the most part this year. Like I said earlier, I don't want to hate on Casey Thompson because a lot of it's not his fault either. He's gotten no protection. But if we're going to be completely honest about the transfer portal era, I mean, yeah, you bring in guys from other programs that have a lot of talent and looks like they should help your team quite a bit, right? But the fact of the matter is there's a reason they're leaving where they came from.
Yep.
Usually it's because they know that in the upcoming year, they're probably not going to be the starter. And that was the case with Casey Thompson. Quinn Ewers was transferring into Texas, and Casey Thompson, either didn't believe he could win the starting job, or they told him they weren't even going to give him a chance. Who knows how that all played out? But there's a reason that he's at Nebraska now instead of Texas. And again, I don't think that Casey Thompson's bad. I don't think that, he was ever awful for Texas or, anything like that. He led the Big 12 in touchdown passes last year.
Yeah.
But no, I still think Casey Thompson's a guy. I do not want to see Chubba Purdy play this season. I don't really think that's necessary at all. I don't think that he's going to really, in the course of a full game, and especially a season, I don't think that we're going to get better play out of him than we're going to get out of Casey Thompson. Obviously, like you said, Casey Thompson will have his ups and his downs. Sometimes his ups are really high, and sometimes his downs are, fairly low. But I don't think that Chubba Purdy is going to be, some savior coming off the bench. I don't think that's anything that Husker fans should start calling for at this point.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Especially when you're lacking, a consistent, if you don't have a lot of trust in your offensive line, trying to read that offense going through all the checkdowns, it just becomes that much faster. I mean, we've seen plays where, he just gets lit up without even getting 2 steps. And, if you want to cut him an excuse from that Texas year, I will say fighting a lot of injuries throughout that year. So, that was kind of part to blame, in my opinion, for some of those up and down kind of games. When you're banged up like that, it's tough to turn around. Alexis, what do you think? Obviously, I don't think anyone in this room expects to see Casey Thompson to take a seat on the bench. He's still a good quarterback. But what do you think his ceiling is for this team and what he can do for us?
I think he's a good replacement for Adrian. I really do. I think he's coming in. He's doing his job. He's doing things the way that we thought he would. But again, he can't trust his own line. He really can't. And that's kind of why I think he is having ups and downs. I do agree with you guys on that, because you can't trust your line. And if you think that you're going to get hurt every time that you're out there, why are you out there? Like, you're going to be scared. You're going to want to do the thing that you need to do, get the ball where you want to get it. But not always can he do that. And honestly, I think he made a right decision coming to Nebraska and taking that position. I don't see him on the bench. I don't see Chubba Purdy coming off the bench anytime soon outside of, a wild card or whatever. But I think Casey Thompson is doing what we need him to do right now. Granted, the entire Nebraska Cornhusker football team does need to make some major improvements, hopefully within the next season or 2.
Yeah, and real quick here before we throw it to break from the text line, 1445 says Thompson will play good enough to win. Got to have a defense. Been the case at Nebraska for a long time. Look at Adrian, T-Mart, no defense. And yeah, you're right. You got to have the defense there in order to just give your offense a break and time to adjust on what they need to adjust. With that being said,
one other thing really quick. Let's just mention too, like, even though we're kind of discussing this because this is just what we have to do. We have to discuss everything, but in no means necessary. Like, we're not saying in any fashion that the Nebraska offense has been the cause for this season going as poorly as it's gone.
No,
when they've given up over 30 points every single game, including giving up 38 and 45 to an FCS team and a Group of 5 team. And of course, we lost the Group of 5 team. So yeah, that's what I was going to throw that out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. With that being said, though, we will throw it to break. I am Harrison Arns here with Karter Longi and Alexis as well. We will be right back after this.
College football in Lincoln, America. The time has come. Start your game day off right with the A1 Automotive Ticket Tailgate pregame show. Join the ticket crew live from Tipsy Tina's in the Haymarket as they bring you all the coverage you need to get you ready for the action. It's the A1 Automotive Ticket Tailgate pregame show on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Brought to you by A1 Automotive, Mullen Motors, Wall to Wall Wine and Spirits, Bauer Underground, Ben Bleicher with Professional Realty Group, and Ritchie Brothers.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. At 4 a.m, my phone rang. They said, "I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action." Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full-time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Early break with Sip and Jake.
I'm sick of the chaos.
Yeah, I am too.
But some people love coaching searches. Like, they love it. This is fun for them. Some people prefer that to having consistency and success, which is odd to me. But if you like chaos, that's your own thing, man.
I used to think that was about 3% of the fan base. Yeah, I'm going more toward 25% now.
Early break with Sip and Jake from 6 to 8 every weekday morning on 93.7 The Ticket.
Turning my pain into purpose is pretty much what I have done to start this foundation.
In August 2020, after the death of George Floyd, Bridget Floyd and other family members established the George Floyd Memorial Foundation in support of the Black community.
It's going to take more than just us as a foundation. It's going to take the community, the world, to make a change.
Fight for racial justice for the Black community. Learn how at lovehasnolabels.com. Brought to you by Love Has No Labels and the Ad Council.
I'm Chris Jakimick. I served in the United States Air Force, and I deployed 3 times. So in 2017, I was serving as an Air Force First Sergeant. Our motto in that role is, my job is people, everyone is my business. But unfortunately, in that year, I would lose my own brother, Lance Corporal Adam Jakimick, to suicide. The majority of veteran suicides are from guns. I store my weapons securely, not only for myself, but for my family. Store all your guns securely. Help stop suicide. My service never stops.
Brought to you by End Family Fire and the Ad Council.
Imagine your next staff meeting. Now imagine your next staff meeting with a side of ribs. Your next client presentation, or that same client presentation with brisket and baked beans. It's better, right? Let Mary take care of all of your business catering needs. Feed the staff, cater your next event, whatever you need, Mary Ellen's can help. They can even host your events in their brand new event space located right next to the restaurant. Go see for yourself. Mary Ellen's Food for the Soul at 29th and Pine Lake or online at maryellens.com. Let them fix you a plate.
If you need to sell equipment and trucks, Ritchie Brothers' new Lincoln Satellite Yard lets you free up space at your property and get local access to all Ritchie Brothers auctions. Drop your equipment off and sell it online at any Ritchie Brothers auction, Iron Planet, or via Marketplace E. The yard is at 8801 US 6 Lincoln. It's secure and makes for easy in-person buyer inspections and pickup. Take advantage of this yard to sell at Ritchie Brothers Great Plains Regional Auction, September 15th and 16th. For details, visit rbauction.com/Lincoln.
I learned patience from my adoptive dad. All he had to say was,
Hey, you got this. Just breathe. Hey, we're pretty good.
Yeah.
Might have to start a band.
I got it.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to find out more. This message is brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
Don't you wish your life came with a warning app?
Stop. That dog does not want to be petted.
A heads up before something bad happens.
You should not send that text.
Uh-oh. Life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes, you can reverse prediabetes and prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. To learn your risk, take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
They might win, they might lose, but either way, you have something to say about it. Don't miss the Husker After Party postgame show immediately following every Nebraska football game. Nick Sainert and Jake Bachhoven give instant reaction, quotes from the players and coaches, and take all your phone calls with thoughts on the game. It's the Husker After Party postgame show, only on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Sponsored by Action Plumbing and Heating, Gary Michaels Clothiers, and Brent Excavate.
My simple solution to the problem was remove people from the scene and help them feel safer.
In response to attacks against Asian Americans, Maddie Park raised over $250,000 to donate cab rides to the Asian community.
There is so much more work to be done. We really need to come together and tackle this issue as a community.
Support the Asian community. Learn how at lovehasnolabels.com. Brought to you by Love Has No Labels and the Ad Council.
Back to the Ticket weeknights on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
All right, welcome back into the Ticket pregame show. I'm Harrison Arns here with Karter and Alexis. Before we give our picks here, I do want to pick up on some of the other scores around college football. But if you guys want to say anything before we get out of here, you can head up the Starter Heyman text line, 402-464-5685. And that text line will be open all night. So be sure to hit that one for these pregame shows. Like I said, we'll have 2 more pregame shows, or at least 2 more hours with the pregame shows after this, and then another 2 hours after the game as well. So that ticket text line, as I'm trying to get through that, will be open all throughout these shows here on the ticket. But I do want to catch up on some scores here. So we'll pick up on the Big Ten. Minnesota actually did lose to Purdue 20-10. So that's a pretty big one right there. I thought Minnesota was looking like the pretty heavy favorite here in the Big Ten West. As much as I hate to say it, what PJ Fleck is doing over there in Minnesota, it's working. I think even though this loss to Purdue isn't great, that team's getting better every year. And that is a team to watch out for as we continue to try to climb up the Big Ten West. Minnesota looks like they're 5 steps ahead of us right now. Also, Kansas State, number 25, Kansas State now after they beat number 6 Oklahoma. They beat Texas Tech today, 37-28. Adrian Martinez, 116 yards, 1 touchdown. And right now, number 4 Michigan is ahead of Iowa, 27-14. Iowa catching some boos at home field. You guys see that?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, so their offense, it was 0-14 for I think mid-third quarter still, and
that offense is ridiculously bad. Like it's one of the worst I think we've ever seen in college football. Spencer Petras also, the fact that they somehow have won 3 games at this point in the season with I have no problem saying he's the worst quarterback in all of college football right now. It's actually a miracle.
It says how good that defense is.
Yeah.
And the special teams. I mean, they have a punter that can pretty much pinpoint it within 5 every time. And I mean, it's like they almost get excited to punt the ball for how good they are at it. Yeah, that defense, the number of safeties they've forced over probably the last 5 years, they're probably up there towards the top with how good they are, combined with the special teams and the offense lacking. They're typically pinning teams deep into their territory a lot. And like you said, it's horrible. I mean, they got to get a new offensive coordinator. It's getting to that point. You're getting boos at home, even though you got a winning record. It just tells you how good that team could be.
You know, Petras might have the best game of his career today. He threw for almost 250 yards and a touchdown.
And did he throw any picks?
No.
That might be up there for him. That's impressive. They actually put up 14 points as well. I thought they might go scoreless again in that one. I was like,
yeah, they all came in the 4th when Michigan was just protecting the lead. So I don't know. Iowa's something else. I don't know. At least they win games, right?
Spot to be.
I mean, they win games. We don't. So
yeah,
I mean, we'll give them that.
I mean, if I was winning games though, like in that fashion, that'd still just be a disturbing thing to watch because it'd just be frustrating knowing how good that team could be. But to wrap it up here on these other games, Oklahoma is really just falling apart. It is 55-24 right now, or that was the final.
Over,
excuse me. Number 18 Oklahoma, not to be any more after this one. Absolutely got decimated by TCU. Didn't see that one coming today. It just seems like every team that plays Nebraska at this point has just kind of been falling apart, and it's just not looking good for our record. Rutgers is down to Ohio State 7-21. Number 2 Alabama beat number 20 Arkansas. Finish up Big Ten here. Northwestern is down by 14, 0-14 in the second quarter. There's about 3 minutes left to play. So that's kind of the Big Ten picture. And as I'm trying to point out,
something worth noting really quick.
Yeah, go for it.
So Alabama, Arkansas, second quarter right now. Alabama's up by 3 touchdowns. Bryce Young did go to the medical tent, injured his right shoulder, so his throwing shoulder. I think he's back in the game, but I guess for anybody who kind of likes to watch the Heisman race, it's probably something to keep an eye on. So.
Okay. Do you know what the injury was, or he's?
They just said he landed on his shoulder, and
okay,
I don't know, he went to the tent. I'm pretty sure he's back out though. But
okay.
I mean, throwing shoulder though is not anything to mess with. So never know if he takes another hit, that could be bad news for Alabama.
Yeah, we'll see what this looks like in the second half. I'd imagine if they get up enough. I mean, it's number 20 Arkansas. You don't want to take them lightly. We'll just have to see how that one plays out. But yeah, as I was going with this. As we're kind of looking around the Big Ten, I was saying to Alexis earlier, the season's not over for Nebraska. I mean, there's still plenty of things you can do to kind of fix this for Nebraska. I mean, you look at the lead of the Big Ten West, and it's only 1 game up right now, and you're 1 game behind.
I mean, the Big Ten West is unfortunately probably the worst Power 5 conference.
It's horrible to this
conference division in all of college football right now. They're just not good as a whole. I mean, Wisconsin's awful. Iowa's Iowa. Nebraska's Nebraska. Minnesota's looked solid for the most part. Purdue's okay. I think Illinois is actually decent. And then, of course, Northwestern is not good either. So, the Big Ten West, not looking strong at all.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I was at. Real quick before we get out of here, you can just say, you don't have to give the scores, but who do we got tonight?
I'll stay optimistic. Give me Nebraska.
Alexis?
Indiana.
I'm with Indiana as well. That's it for us. I am Harrison Arns. That's Karter. That's Alexis. We will be we're done here, but we'll throw it to the other guys. I appreciate you listening. Have a great rest of your night.
College football in Lincoln, America. The time has come. Start your game day off right with the A1 Automotive Ticket Tailgate pregame show. Join the ticket crew live from Tipsy Tina's in the Haymarket as they bring you all the coverage you need to get you ready for the action. It's the A1 Automotive